hit subscribe to this channel right now. Republicans are slight favorites to win the U.S. Senate. Here are the seats to watch. This is the latest article, one of the latest articles on the future of Congress. That will be settled in a couple of days, ladies and gentlemen. So November 5th, we'll find out that President Trump has won, regained the Oval Office. So hit subscribe to this channel right now, and he'll take Congress with him. Republicans will sweep. They'll get the presidency, the Senate, and they'll keep the House and add seats to the House. Hit subscribe to this channel right now. It only makes sense, ladies and gentlemen. He's up nationally. So it's not often, actually, I don't believe Trump was ever up nationally in 2016 or even 4 years ago. But in the RCP polls, he is up ahead of Harris throughout the country. He is up in every single battleground swing state, or he is competitive. And these are Democratic strongholds. And so that tells you how miserably failed the current presidency has been. Hit subscribe to this channel right now. To my super chat, I have a goal of 5 super chats. We can hit it, not hit it, it's all good. Just the fact that you're here means a great deal to me, ladies and gentlemen. Let's get started. It's going to be a really beautiful, beautiful next couple of months and 4 years. Trump will have a great economy and a great foreign policy. And wonderful, morally superior liberal Democrats will be miserable, as they usually are, unfortunately, when they're not in control. But everyone will have a much better economy and a much better foreign policy. And that's why you vote for Trump. The moral imperative is to vote for Trump. If you dislike inflation, if you want lower inflation, lower interest rates, you want less military quagmires, you choose Trump. And let's get to some analysis right here, ladies and gentlemen. Hit subscribe. Your super chat is greatly appreciated.
So last hour we showed you our latest power rankings on the Electoral College. Now we do the last power rankings on the U.S. Senate, and this is how we see it shaping up, okay? We believe Republicans get control with 51 seats for Republicans, and the 51 might be the floor, as you're going to see in a moment here. Everything in yellow, all the blue wall, Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, Ohio, we believe they are still toss-ups. So what we have seen in the last 2 weeks, tightening races in Pennsylvania, tightening races in Ohio, Michigan, and Wisconsin as well. So where does that leave us? This is what we believe, okay? We think right now, like maybe the forecasts are not necessarily going the way we expect. For Dems to have a good night, they would maintain the majority of 51, okay, on the Senate side. For Republicans to have a good night, when you consider the states that I just ticked off there, 55 would be a really good night for the GOP, and we'll see whether or not they can get to those numbers, right? Now, why is it changing? What are we seeing out there? We have moved a lot of our upper Midwest states from lean Democrat, like Michigan, to a toss-up.
Democrats probably would have done better just keeping Biden and continuing the absurd farce and charade that everything was okay in terms of cognitive abilities, that he wasn't one fry short of a Happy Meal, or, the lights were on but nobody was home. And I say this respectfully, like, God bless Joe Biden, God bless him. I only wish him the best. I'm not like this rabid anti-Trump, wonderful, morally superior liberal Democrat. I don't have any animosity towards Hillary Clinton or Joe Biden or Harris or anyone. I'm not like obsessed with disliking them. But Democrats picked somebody who has a very difficult time communicating. And it took one debate for them to oust Biden. The problem, however, is that Harris is a California liberal Democrat. Okay, a far left, you could say, if you want to just use the term, liberal Democrat. Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, they're not really, Biden had more experience within those states, or maybe he's been in the Democratic Party longer, much longer. and he's a little bit more conservative. They probably should have just kept up the charade and not ousted him. But the moment they removed Biden after he won his primary, I believe he won all those states, they would have had a better chance. They still would have lost, but they would have had a better chance. Trump is going to win not only the presidency, but the Senate and keep the House. He'll have a trifecta.
Lean Democrat in Pennsylvania to a toss-up. Lean Democrat in Wisconsin to a toss-up. We've also taken that Senate race in Nebraska and moved it slightly toward the Democratic column, just a bit here, from likely Republican to lean Republican. So the shade changes a little bit on the screen right here. So that's the power rankings. That's the way we see it in the U.S. Senate. We'll see whether or not in a week whether or not that's correct. John Thune, Senate Republican whip out of South Dakota, with Dana and me now. And sir, good morning to you. Thanks for coming back. What's right? What's wrong about the analysis here today?
Well, good morning, Bill. Good morning, Dana. I think your analysis is spot on. We're traveling. I'm in these states. I was in Ohio yesterday, Wisconsin today. We'll be in Michigan and Pennsylvania early next week before the Tuesday election. And what our candidates are trying to do here in these Rust Belt states is work with President Trump to tear down that blue wall. These races have all tightened. Our candidates are on message. They're talking about pocketbook issues that the American people care about. They're talking about high prices and open borders, which are the two issues that the Biden-Harris administration and all their enablers in the United States Senate are responsible for. And we think those issues are going to drive people to the votes or to the polls. We're already seeing in the early vote a lot of low propensity Republican voters turning out. Those votes are being banked, and the numbers, at least right now, the data we're seeing is really encouraging.
I read this morning that the Senate Republicans feel really good about locking down West Virginia, of course, Montana, and increasingly so about Ohio.
I still have no clue how Montana and especially West Virginia had senators that were Democratic Party senators. So you have the old school blue dog Democrat, but that doesn't really exist anymore. Okay. The Democratic Party has two choices. They could go further left, okay, or they could alienate the youth of their political party and remain centrist. The problem is they lose either way. If you have core constituents within the Democratic Party leaving already, and you don't really stand for anything, so like they don't stand for Medicare for all or single payer, or really they don't really care about the Green New Deal. They're not even mentioning it in any commercial. They're not bringing that up. They're just talking about how Trump is going to impose a tax, which is hilarious. They're trying to say the tariffs that they've kept, they literally kept Trump's tariffs, amount to a tax. So in a sense, they've been saying, they're admitting in their warped logic that they have been taxing Americans by keeping Trump's tariffs. They kept Trump's tax cuts. They kept Trump's tariffs. Okay? Democrats literally kept the things that they're running against. But again, the Democratic Party is actually losing momentum and influence in American politics. This is, okay, Biden and Harris are doing to the modern Democratic Party what Bush, Cheney, and Rumsfeld did to the old Republican Party. Essentially, Kamala Harris is Mitt Romney. Mitt Romney was the last of the Bush, Cheney, Rumsfeld, old school Republicans. He was the last Republican that was, a good, moral, palatable, never-ending military hawk type of individual. Mitt Romney was the last centrist conservative Republican in the mold of George W. Bush. And Kamala Harris will probably be, in terms of political ideology, well, I don't know, who knows? I mean, she's further to the left than Biden. So who knows? I mean, what does the Democratic Party stand for? Single payer health care? They don't care about that. What is it that they're known for, aside from inflation, high interest rates, invasions taking place under their watch? I still don't know. I actually don't know what Democrats stand for. I don't know why a person would vote Democrat other than, well, Trump is bad, even though Trump is very good in terms of the economy and foreign policy.
But what about Pennsylvania, where President Trump needs to win Pennsylvania, Kamala Harris needs to win Pennsylvania, Governor Shapiro is there working very hard, and John...
By the way, Henry Mann, thank you. This is my super chat. Thank you. Thank you, Henry, very much.
Fetterman, the senator from Pennsylvania, is saying something astonishing is happening with Trump support there. So can Dave McCormick, the Republican, get by in Pennsylvania?
I think he can, Dana. Yeah, Dave McCormick's run a great race there, and as is true in some of these other Wisconsin and Ohio and Michigan, as you mentioned, people, I think, are tired of the policies of this administration. They want to see an energy policy that makes America energy dominant. They want economic policies when it comes to taxes and regulation that get greater growth in the economy and create those good-paying jobs. And they want operational control of the southern border, which has just been an absolute disaster down there. And I think that on all those issues, economic issues, domestic issues, and then also on national security, where we see an increasingly dangerous world, people are ready for getting the adults back in the room. They're ready for President Trump, and that's why I think you see his numbers turning in states like Pennsylvania. And when they do, that also is helpful to our Senate candidates there. But we feel really good about where we are. Obviously, there's a week to go. Our candidates have to keep their foot on the gas. They have to run through the tape. But if you look at where the numbers are today and how the polling has been, how it's tightened, the trend lines are looking good for us. And so we're encouraged. We just have to execute on getting the job done and getting the voters out.
Senator, we look at the early vote every day, sometimes every hour of every day. Sometimes it drives us insane. As Dana will attest.
Us too, Bill.
Okay? In the state of Nevada, Republicans are showing up. And it's just a fact. The numbers are there.
If you live in Vegas or Reno and you want, more tourism, better economy, why on earth would you choose Harris and Walz? And I don't even know who's worse, but Walz has no business being, in my humble opinion, anywhere near the Oval Office. God forbid he would ever become president. But I mean, it's such a charade. Like, I don't know what is more fabricated and phony. Biden being anointed by the press, media, social media algorithms, intelligence agencies, all of these. I mean, he defeated Trump, yes, but he didn't campaign. Harris isn't doing press conferences. Democrats don't campaign. They just rely on overwhelming public relations and media support. But nobody trusts the media anymore. So I've been saying for 4 years on this channel, the moment that people stop trusting the 50 newspapers and publications and cable stations that devote their lives to disparaging Trump and propping up Democrats, the moment that the average American says, yeah, okay, even people who don't like Trump, there are people who don't like Trump who are smart enough to realize that there's this apoplectic hysteria against him that makes no sense. And so when people start realizing, oh, there's a concerted effort by media, a group like people who are supposed to be journalists and reporters who are supposed to be unbiased. When was the last time the New York Times and the Washington Post did an investigation of Hunter Biden or of Joe Biden or of Hillary Clinton? It doesn't happen. They're winning Pulitzer Prizes only because they've investigated Trump. But it's like been 8 years. They haven't found anything in 8 years. They've indicted him, and none of the indictments have led to anything. The conviction in New York is unconstitutional. A state cannot decide what an FEC law, if a federal law has been broken. And FEC commissioners have stated Trump did not break the law. The FEC dropped the Hush Money case. They've indicted Trump. They've accused him of being a Kremlin operative. Literally nothing has stuck. And now they're going to lose to the same man that they've indicted and spent 8 years disparaging 24/7.
And Sam Brown is a veteran who was wounded, and he's trying to win a Senate seat there. And this is how he says his race is going right now.
Look, I'm a fighter. It's one of the reasons I'm running right now for the U.S. Senate. The Taliban tried to kill me and failed. The Democrats have tried to politically kill me and have failed, despite outspinning me 3-1.
Jackie Rosen, his opponent, has shown a lot of strength in that state. Do you think Sam Brown can win there?
God bless Sam Brown. And he should win. I mean, every Republican, especially Sam Brown, should win. Look, if you are choosing a Democrat in 2024, you're doing so very likely because media is telling you that Trump is bad. But in reality, we had a great economy and a great foreign policy with Trump. That's a fact. And if you say, well, it's not a fact, it was better than what we have now. Even the most brilliant atheist pundit out there, people who are said to be geniuses, have to admit that the economy was better under Trump. In 2019, we had record low poverty, record highs in household median income. We haven't reached those levels since. If you care about the economy, if you care about your pocketbook, if you care about foreign policy, ending endless military quagmires, then Trump is a moral imperative. And yes, his character is far superior, is a better personality and a better character than Biden or, for example, President Obama, who destroyed a country with a failed intervention in Libya. And he even admitted that on a Fox News interview. His biggest mistake was that intervention. And so Trump's biggest mistake is not causing an entire region or country to be destabilized. Like, I love how people are like, oh, Trump is a bad person. Well, did he destroy a country? Because the other presidents, Bush and President Obama, did destroy countries. So, I mean, you judge a person by their character. You judge a person's character by their actions, not their words and not the hysteria from media. Okay, if somebody says, oh, I love you, well, do they show it through their actions? And so when Trump says he cares about the country, he already showed it with his actions. The other presidents, not so much.
I do, and one of the reasons for that, again, Bill, is what we're seeing in terms of the early vote. Nevada is one of those states that's been targeted with a lot of, identifying these low propensity Republican voters, getting them to turn out, banking the vote. Sam's numbers, the polling is tightening in Nevada. I think President Trump is going to perform really well there. I feel good about it. He's a great candidate. He'd be a great United States Senator. He's doing everything he can to win. He's worked incredibly hard, as has his team. And we just need now to, again, push through the tape on Election Day, a week from today, and get our voters out. If we do that, I think this country, I think these states, this country is ready for change. I mean, you look at the right track, wrong track numbers. Mm-hmm. They're sick of these policies. They're tired of inflation that's rampant and out of control, over 20% since this administration took office. And they're tired of open borders, and they're tired of global instability and the feeling of insecurity they have at home in their neighborhoods. These things have to change, and our candidates are making that argument out there right to the very end, as is President Trump. And I think it's going to be, I think it potentially could be a really good day for us.
Senator, the top two issues or matters you would tackle if you become the leader of the Senate. I know you're in a Senate leadership race with John Cornyn. But if President Trump were to win again and the Senate goes to the Republicans in terms of the majority, what are the top two issues that you guys would have to tackle first?
Well, I think first off, Dana, we've got a tax policy that expires next year. We've got to extend that. It's economic issues. It's taxes. It's regulations. It's energy dominance. I think that's going to be front and center for us. And then I think the issue with the Democrats of open borders, of closing the border. Now, President Trump, when he wins, is going to be in a position to do a lot with respect to the border. But we've got to be there to support him to make sure he gets the right people in place. They all come through the Senate for confirmation. And so I think those issues are going to be paramount. And, of course, always national security. You look at the world today, the United States' role there, and I think that, the one thing that it's not our strength that tempts our adversaries, it's our weakness, and what you've seen from this administration is weakness. I think it's we've got a lot of serious concerns concerning what's happening around the world today in a lot of these hot spots, and the United States needs to be able to project strength, and that comes with President Trump, comes with a Republican Senate that will allow him to get his people into place quickly and assemble his team so that we can get to work on these problems.
Can you imagine, ladies and gentlemen, the day after Democrats lose, the presidency, the Senate, and Republicans keep the House. Can you imagine the unmitigated meltdown? I mean, can you imagine? And it's like you're giving like the wonderful, morally superior, highly educated liberal Democrats will make more money. There will be lower inflation. It'll be easier for them to buy a home. There'll be less quagmires around the world. We'll have a much better foreign policy. We'll actually have a leader in the Oval Office, not a whole bunch of advisors around a president that has major cognitive issues. And so, like, it's like they pontificate about democracy. You win and you lose. We lost 4 years ago in 2020. Okay, we dealt with 4 years of inflation and a terrible presidency. I didn't complain on this channel. I just said, okay, look, we have a terrible presidency. Inflation's through the roof, and interest rates are through the roof. It's more difficult now to buy a home. Mortgage rates have over doubled. We have invasions throughout the planet. We didn't have all of these things with Trump. And more people lost their lives from you know what in Biden's first year. Of course, media, the public relations arm of the Democratic Party didn't care. They were happy that the person that they helped install, was there. They were happy that Democrats were controlling the economy and foreign policy. Well, now the country wants a different direction. It's obvious, unless you're completely indoctrinated, that Trump was a much better president than Biden. That's why he's going to win. That's obvious. That's not even up really for debate. Because if you're a two-time president, yet you have no writers or journalists or reporters at the New York Post or New York Times or Washington Post or the Atlantic or any of these publications, or like you have not one supporter of Trump, that shows you how out of touch media is. And it shows you the country is a lot more conservative than Hollywood would make you think.
Senator, thank you for your time. We can see you're in Milwaukee because we recognize the Fiserv Arena behind you, where Dana and I spent a lot of time in the last
I like that place. That's a cute city. That's a charming city.
Yep.
All right, let's bring in RNC Chair Michael Whatley. Michael, good morning to you. So let's talk more about the latest round of Fox News polls. Among likely voters, it shows Donald Trump up by 1 point in Pennsylvania, Donald Trump up by 1 point in North Carolina, and Donald Trump and Kamala Harris tied in Michigan. You have said that Donald Trump is in a very good position to win on Election Day. Why do you feel that way, given that these polls are a neck and neck and within the margin of error?
Two different things are going on. First off, when you compare where we are today versus where we were a month ago, 6 months ago, a year ago, 4 years ago, or 8 years ago, we are in dramatically better shape. President Trump being tied in these polls, having a small lead in these polls right now, compare that to him being down by 5 or 6 or 8 points when he was down, in 2016 or in 2020. So we're in a much stronger position there. We also are seeing the shifts in the polls that are out there. The second important thing is right now when we look at voter registration, we look at the people who have requested absentee ballots, the ballots that have been returned, and the early voting in all of these states. Republicans are seeing huge gains versus what we did in 2016 and 2020. So Donald Trump is in a fantastic position to win on Election Day. We're in a much stronger position than we were 4 years ago or 8 years ago.
Yeah, to put a bow on that first point that you made, it still remains to be seen whether Donald Trump will be undercounted in a third straight polling cycle. I know some of our colleagues at other networks had said, not this time. This time he could be overcounted. We will see when it all shakes out in the
There's no chance that the polls are in Trump's favor in terms of overcounting him. There's zero chance of that. If anything, he's up by a lot more. Also, when you think about the polls, ladies and gentlemen, nobody talks about the media backing Democrats. Nobody talks about the fact that the entire media is an extension of the Democratic Party. It's not really hyperbole. It's not. It's not hyperbolic to say that. You don't have one supporter of Trump in any of these major publications. Not one. There are about 50 major publications, newspapers around the country, and they all prop up Democrats and then go after Republicans. And it's like, that has to be addressed in the polls. Trump is running, if you want to use a football NFL analogy, he's running a 40-yard dash with a 100-pound backpack in 4.5 seconds. Well, if he took the 100-pound backpack off, he'd run a 4.2 or 4.3 or 4.4 or whatever. So the point is, he's doing a lot better than the polls say. Okay, he made it. He won in 2016, made it very close 4 years ago, and he was down. Now he's up nationally.
Watch, but I want to ask you about this. When Democrats talk about this race, they talk about and brag about their ground game. They always say, we have hundreds of thousands in individual states, like in Pennsylvania, 120,000 or some ridiculous number like that. Are you confident in Republicans' ability to counteract what the Democrats think is their advantage in the ground game?
Absolutely. That's one thing the Republicans have always done well. The RNC has always done well. We've retooled our ground game this year to talk to low propensity voters. What we're seeing in these initial results from the battleground states is that we are overperforming with our low propensity voters, which means the program is working. We have thousands upon thousands of volunteers out there right now making phone calls, knocking on doors. We feel great about the ground game. And we also have Donald Trump, who is absolutely a single person machine when it comes to getting out the vote. And we see the excitement at every single rally, at every single event that we go to around the country, where people really, truly are fired up and want to get out there and vote for him.
Yeah, well, Michael, I'm sure you didn't think you'd be talking about garbage as much as you are now in the final stretch of this election. But here we are. Here is the White House on the latest from the White House on what Joe Biden said on Tuesday. Watch this.
Why is he using that kind of rhetoric? How is that presidential?
So a couple of things. So just to clarify, he was not calling Trump supporters garbage.
He literally called Trump supporters garbage. You can see the actual quote on previous videos I've done, and you could just watch it, and maybe hopefully they'll show you the quote here. He literally said the Trump supporters are garbage. And so the same Democrats that despise Trump and say that he lies so much, they lie infinitely more than Trump. And Trump, there's nothing grandiose he's ever lied about. But Democrats lie about private servers, they lie about laptops, they lie about national security issues all the time. And then little things like Biden literally stating Trump supporters were garbage.
The only garbage I see floating out there is his supporters.
Which is why he...
So there you go. I mean, it's right that he literally stated that, and then the press secretary is saying, oh, no, he didn't say it.
He put out, this is why he wanted to make sure that we put out a statement that clarified what he meant and what he was trying to say. And so just want to make that very clear for folks who are watching.
Okay, so right now Democrats are talking about how a comedian called Puerto Rico garbage, and Republicans are talking about how the president called half the country garbage. Does any of this really matter when the number one policy issue...
And by the way, Trump didn't say that. That was a comedian. That had nothing to do with Trump. It was Biden who actually stated Trump supporters were garbage.
The number one election issue in the country is the economy.
Well, look, what I would say is this, that two things really come out of the president's comments about calling half of America garbage, is that there has always been a streak within the Democratic Party in denigrating Republicans, denigrating half the country, from Hillary Clinton calling them deplorables, Tim Walz calling them Nazis. We have seen, Hillary Clinton bashing people. Now we've seen Kamala Harris calling President Trump a Nazi. And then we see this comment here. So it is continuously denigrating half the country. The other thing that I think is really important is that Donald Trump came down the escalator 9 years ago, said that he was going to make America great again by restoring our southern border, rebuilding our economy, and ensuring that we as a country are strong enough to protect our interests and our allies all around the world. That is what he did during his 4 years. That is what he is focusing on right now, is lifting up every American family through a stronger economy, rebuilding the border, and ensuring that we're going to be strong enough to protect our interests. Right. What is Kamala Harris's closing argument? You people are very bad people. You are horrible people. Please vote for me. That's not an argument that's going to work. And right now, the fact that she does not have a substantive closing argument is because she cannot talk about the economy. Right. She cannot talk about the.
Harris didn't win a primary. Biden won the primary. So that's very important because the Democratic Party said, oh, we had somebody who's supremely qualified for a second term. Then they removed the person. They can't even, they're so dysfunctional that they can't even decide on a candidate. Then there were attempts on Trump's life. Thank God he survived. And there was a firefighter who lost his life in the first attempt at Trump. Then they removed Biden. So it's like, or no, they removed Biden before, I believe. But the point is, before or after, let me know that I'm getting that my dates mixed up. But the point is, Harris didn't win a primary. If she wasn't even the first choice of Democrats, then the question is, well, the electorate is not going to simply side with the vice president because the Democratic Party said, oh, the current president has cognitive issues. So therefore, everyone that we've told that Biden is fine, he's perfect, he's totally fine, it's just a deep fake video. All the Americans we've told, we've tried to convince pertaining to Biden's mental acuity that he's fine. Well, you know what? Forget that. Now we're going to go with the vice president, and you should vote in line. It's like people are not going to do that. They're not going. Most people want a primary. Democrats don't have a primary, but they have a convention, which leads me to the question of why did why did she even speak at the convention if she didn't win a primary? And then they cheated Bernie Sanders. They did worse to Biden.
The southern border. She cannot talk about our standing in the world. And really, truly, all they have to fall back on is name calling and finger pointing.
Yeah, I mean, to be clear, to your point, this is not about Biden's stutter. He has said these things before. This is not about an apostrophe. This is how they feel.
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
They tried to say that it was his stuttering. It's like, no, it wasn't his stuttering. There's nothing to do with that. It had nothing to do with a speech impediment. The past 4 years was a human being in decline. God bless him. Wish him the best. But that was the truth. Then they tried to convince people he wasn't in decline. Then they ousted and removed him. Then they said, well, his vice president's even better. But no one's buying it.
Joining me now is Ohio Congressman Warren Davidson, a member of the House Financial Services and Foreign Affairs Committees, is also a member of the task force to combat Mexican drug cartels. Congressman, thanks very much for being here this morning. How do you size up this race 6 days away from Election Day?
Good morning, Maria. I think it's a better outcome than what the polls that you referenced show. I think Donald Trump's up by far more than that. There's way more energy for Donald Trump in Ohio than there was in 16 or 20. And, J.D. Vance is definitely part of that. But I think, the other story is you just look at the ground game that his team and all of his supporters have made around the state. And Bernie Moreno is a great candidate for Senate. So I feel like this is a very winnable race for Bernie Moreno. And I think he's run a tremendously strong campaign.
Well, look, President Biden is now attempting to walk back comments that he made about Trump supporters yesterday. Watch this.
Or Puerto Rico, where I'm in my home state of Delaware, they're good, decent, honorable people. The only garbage I see floating out there is just supporters.
The only garbage I see floating out there is his supporters. Well, he's referencing a joke from a comedian, not Trump's words, but here's the sitting president. He's still president. He's calling supporters of Trump garbage. So you're talking about 80 million plus 80 to 90 million people in 2024. Let's say he gets the popular vote. And so it's like, then of course the press secretary said, no, he didn't say it. Well, he did say it. They get another lie. Then they pontificate about Trump lying.
Biden now claims he was actually referring to hateful rhetoric at Trump's Madison Square Garden rally as garbage. Congressman, your reaction?
Yeah, I mean, they tried to make fun of a comedian, and really what they did is they insulted the people. And that just reveals the contempt that they have for really half of the country. They know they're imposing their will on the country, and the country doesn't support the Biden-Harris policies. That's why you can't pin Kamala Harris down on anything on policy. The results have been disastrous. But they're for the policies anyway. I mean, they're for these things like open borders. They're for they wanted a $5 trillion Build Back Better. Can you imagine how much worse inflation would be if they dumped that much fuel on this inflation bomb?
Yeah. It's just amazing to me that.
So they can't name, like, they're not running on the bills, the $1 trillion bills they passed, whether it's Build Back Better or the Inflation Reduction Act. Harris can simply say, look, this is all the legislation that we passed through Congress. Isn't this great? They're not bringing up anything. Actually, most Democratic voters can't even name any of the bills they passed.
President Trump pulling a tiny bit ahead in our latest polling in battleground Pennsylvania with those crucial 19 electoral votes. He leads Vice President Harris among likely voters by 1 point. It's been neck and neck in Pennsylvania. These are our very latest Fox polls. They were tied a month ago. They're still within the margin of error here. And here is a look at how close Pennsylvania was last time around. President Biden won by just over 1 percentage point, about 81,000 votes in the state of Pennsylvania. Let's bring in special report anchor Bret Baier, my election night co-anchor, who is doing his show today from Pennsylvania, or as Politico calls it, quote, the whole damn ball game for Pennsylvania. Bret, good to see you this afternoon. I know you have spoken with Governor Josh Shapiro and also with the Senate candidate there, Dave McCormick. What are you learning on the ground in Pennsylvania today, Bret?
Yeah, most importantly, Martha, good afternoon. We are talking to voters, and there are a number of different voters who have different feelings. It's really interesting to talk to folks who think their side has motivation and enthusiasm, and there really is that. And you talk to the experts here on the ground, the local reporters, the political analysts. They say going in that they feel like this is the tightest of them all. However, some of them say that there may be a little bit of enthusiasm on the Trump side just by what they're seeing with the late polls in Pennsylvania. Polls are one thing, but when you talk to folks on the ground, they care about a lot of things. It's interesting that the garbage thing definitely got a lot of attention from people we talked to. Remember that obviously there was the comedian with the Puerto Rican joke, and then President Biden, which kind of took that away and became a Trump issue, almost exactly like the Green Bay speech in which former President Trump said he's going to say something about, even though the women may not like it, he's going to do it anyway. And he said, I'm going to protect you. That riff that he did at that rally was jumped on by the Harris campaign, saying that was condescending and not cool to women. And then Mark Cuban goes on The View and says what he says today. And Susie Wiles, as you noted earlier, the campaign co-chair, says, I'm told Mark Cuban needs help identifying the strong, intelligent women surrounding President Trump.
When Mark Cuban said that, it's just basically that was a representation of the elitist thinking, the hubris, the arrogance that a great many wonderful, highly educated, morally superior liberal Democrats have pertaining to supporters of Trump. Most Democratic pundits, politicians, voters, including Mark Cuban, don't understand why anyone would vote for Trump. They don't understand that inflation is a bad thing. High interest rates are a bad thing. You would think that a billionaire, tech sports team owner would understand that inflation is bad. Very simple. Forget Trump, forget Harris. If you have two choices, one choice, you had lower inflation and lower interest rates. The other choice, you had high inflation, high interest rates, invasions everywhere. Why would you choose that? And then they say, well, his personality, a big part of the public image of any politician, any actor, any person in the spotlight is the media's, portrayal of that individual. Biden has said things worse. He said more egregious things. Can you imagine if Trump called Democrats garbage? Could you imagine? I mean, media has said, oh, he's echoing this person. He is suggesting this. He's colluding. They hide within semantic murkiness and ambiguity because they're very deceitful. But the hysteria over Trump has never been about his policies. They try to make it about personality. They can't really run on policies. If you're choosing a person based on policies, lower inflation, lower interest rates, a better economy, you choose Trump. You think Mark Cuban would understand this? He's a billionaire. He's very intelligent, very successful. You think he understood? You think he would understand why women, men would choose Trump over Harris? Very simple reasons that pertain to the economy. That's why Trump is like 20 points up on the economy in every poll.
Well, here we are. I've been proud to lead this campaign, complemented by Linda McMahon, chair of the transition policy, and Laura Trump, RNC chair. So, it creates its own backlash within hours of what I think the Harris campaign thought were both items that they were going to jump on.
Yeah, it's like they just keep trying to sort of cancel each other out with the next sort of.
Paul, thank you to my super chat. Everyone, thank you so much. John, thank you so much. I greatly appreciate it.
Incendiary comment and how voters are taking all this into account. I know 59 million Americans have already voted, which is just an astonishing number. Elon Musk has really put a big effort into Pennsylvania with the America PAC in terms of the presence on the ground and trying to help boost the ground game there. Any sense of what kind of impact that has had in your conversations today, Brett?
Well, so the people on either side and either touched in either campaign believe they have the better ground game. Elon Musk is a big part of the Republican ground game, and that judge saying that his, efforts can continue was another win for them. Remember, the Democrats, really since the last election, have been working on this ground game, pouring money in there. That Senate race between Dave McCormick and incumbent Senator Casey, it's now over 500.
So to clarify, if you see an account, H.A. Goodman account on X, it's not mine. So it's either a parody or whatever, who knows. But I don't have X, formerly Twitter. I don't have Facebook. I don't have Instagram. I don't have True Social. I only have my H.A. Goodman on YouTube and then two other YouTube channels, Stock Market Crash channel and the Bitcoin Crash channel. Unfortunately, I still think a market crash is on the horizon. Hopefully, sadly, it might happen during Trump's administration, but that would be the fault of Harris and Biden after 4 years of mismanagement. But so I don't have X, and I'm not going to be back on.
$100 million. 500.
Not because of Elon Musk. I love Elon Musk. I think he's awesome. I just don't like the back and forth in social media. It's for me, I would urge everyone watching, and thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for bringing it up. Thank you for bringing it up. I would urge everyone to just get off of Facebook, limit your time on X, Truth Social. I don't think anyone should spend even a second arguing or debating another human being halfway across the world or a bot and wasting your time. I don't think you should ever debate anybody that you know or that you meet about politics. The people, when they lose, liberal, wonderful, morally superior, highly educated liberal Democrats, many of them will be livid. They will, oh my God, he conspired with the Kremlin. Oh my God, he did this, he did that. And no amount of reasoning will make any sense to them, will dent the cognitive dissonance. And so I would suggest you never, ever debate a wonderful, morally superior Democrat, especially when they lose Congress and they lose the presidency after 8 years of being indoctrinated and being told that Trump is the Satan in human form. They're not going to be able to take it. It's going to be this mass delusional hysteria, which actually happens every time Democrats lose.
$100 million.
Incredible.
And that's one race. So imagine, first of all, everybody I talk to is so sick of commercials, so sick of ads. Every second in every TV, it's another political ad. But there's also people knocking on doors on both sides.
Rolf Corver, thank you so very, very much. Thank you. I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. Rolf Corver, thank you. Ralph, thank you so very, very, very much. Greatly, greatly, greatly appreciate it. Thank you for watching.
I think Pennsylvania may be the ball game come election night.
Quick last question for you in terms of when we may get results, because it was slow last time. It took.
I can tell you to watch this channel and your favorite other YouTube channels. Not only the 5th, Trump will be up the 5th. Okay, in the Senate, he'll be up. Republicans will be up in the Senate. They'll be up in the House. The 5th will be an amazing night. But the 6th and the 7th and the 8th and the 9th and the 10th will be when we finally find out. Could be the 10th. Okay, it could be the 10th. All right, but that's when we find out. We ain't going to find out the 5th. I can tell you that right now. We ain't going to find out the 5th. It ain't happening. Okay? Because democracy in action. Because Democrats, what they did to Bernie Sanders, what they did to Biden, they would love to do to Trump. It ain't happening, though, this time around. Hit subscribe to this channel. To my viewers around the world, thank you so very much. God bless you all. I will try to do a third one tonight. Whoa. I will try to do a third one tonight. But if not, I'll be back tomorrow, probably about the same time, 11 a.m. in the morning or 10:45. But ladies and gentlemen, God bless you. I'll see you either tonight or tomorrow. Did 2 today, 2 yesterday. We'll be doing 2 to 3 coming up Monday, and Tuesday we'll do like 3. Who knows how many we'll do Tuesday. But what can I tell you other than God bless you all. Be here, ladies and gentlemen, and tell your friends about this channel. And be here November 5th. And